And here we are again with Type 40 Live, the live stream Doctor Who magazine show, all across your view screen on Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook too, in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions. Just like you, we're covering the past, the present, and future of all things Doctor Who, not necessarily in that order, and sometimes, well, a bit of everything, really. And it could be you're all full up with Easter treats if your hunt was successful. We can help wash that all down with some geeky Doctor Who talk. We've been all over all of that just a few weeks on from that exciting revelation for this big event, Doctor Who, the Daleks' Master Plan. Now, streaming? Really? But I thought it was lost. What on earth is happening? We're sailing back down to hit the spot here and cover it all on a special Type 40 Live. And oh yeah, well, thought we might as well do this in style. Delighted to be back and in a new ride here. For once, the controls look pretty simple, but this time I think it's going to be the chair that gives me some grief. That's going to be murder on my back. Hello, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. Welcome back to the show. My God. I've got no idea what you've got to say about it. I don't know what they've got to say about it, but I can't wait to get stuck in talking about those two new missing episodes that I think the entirety of fandom must have been watching over the last few days. So much to say. About 46, 47 minutes worth of TV, taking in every little scene, weren't we? Every crease, every word of the dialogue. How on earth do you unpack that? I'm going to do our best for the next however long on this special reaction edition of the show. And yeah, this we're better than on Mavic Chen's Spa here. Okay. Now I'm going to need a lean crew, a mean crew, and a sober crew. So I may be successful in some aspects. Let's find out. I know that I can rely on Charlotte Shields.
You can rely on the sober, definitely, with me for that list.
I was just looking at the time. If the pubs are open. Hello, Charlotte. How are you? Good?
Good, yeah. We've had a lovely couple of days, so I've had a bit of walking around, going out and actually enjoying some weather for once in Britain, which is a novelty, but that's been nice. And Doctor Who, so good times.
Easter bank holiday weekend. All bank holidays are a bit of a gamble, aren't they, in Britain? But we yes. Roll with the punches nonetheless. Yes, and we have an international panel to welcome this time as well, Charlotte.
Oh,
I know from all over the shop. Okay, first of all, we have who should we pick off first? I think he's just taken a slug of what could be. I think it looks like an energy drink. Heaven knows what he's wearing. Never mind what he's drinking. It's the lead hooligan, Luke Walters.
Oh, here's his onesie.
He can't even speak. He's whatever he was drinking has robbed him of his voice. How about that?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
can you hear me now? Yeah, you sound like somebody shouting down an alleyway. Hello, Luke. How are you?
Yeah, not too. I'll sort this out. Don't worry. It's because everything was very last minute, and I hit everything. So. Yeah, I'll sort it. But yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Pretty good. It's it does look like you're wearing a cross between a bear's outfit and a high-collared Time Lord robe. It's very, very strange.
Yeah, it's my symbol. It's my Lion King onesie. My Udi. It's my sorry, this isn't even plugged in. I don't know why I'm talking into this. I'm talking to my headphones.
It looks good though.
Yeah, it looks the part. Yeah, no. Nice. Not a bad little weekend, was it, in general?
Not bad at all. And what about this fantastic new ride as well? I think this has become the sort of the new star of the Doctor Who universe in the last few weeks. Totally kind of 1950s, 60s with all that tech.
Yeah, as I'm trying to fix my tech, I'm just like underneath a microphone.
I think you have had more luck with this.
Yeah, sorry, I literally joined and no one. Yeah, I didn't even see you. I just joined midway through the title sequence. I'm so sorry. We'll get everything sorted eventually. I'm so sorry, Jack.
You can see a bit more from this angle, so banks of various dials and data banks and things like that, and a door out to who knows where. You could easily have a nasty accident and fall out through a door like that. Thank heaven that couldn't possibly happen here at Type 40, could it? Particularly not when we've got Gary Akers on deck to make sure, because he's our health and safety officer. It's a pity he's over the other side of the Atlantic, but you know.
It's the thought that counts.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Dan. Hi, Charlotte. And hello to our resident Cheetah.
Is it our IT expert?
It's supposed to be a liar. Is this working now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I fixed it. There we go.
I thought of a cheetah when I first saw that.
Yeah,
so,
supposed to be a liar.
All right. First of all, Dan, you were right. That is not an ergonomically supportive chair, first of all. And second, don't you miss the days when an entire intergalactic ship can operate from a computer control that's not connected to anything other than just like one plug? I mean, hopefully you don't like kick out the plug, because the whole spaceship would like self-destruct. But I love it. I absolutely love it.
Gary, I think it was ahead of its time, and it's actually all done wirelessly. It's all done by Bluetooth and various other things.
And you know, I do love, I know we'll be talking about the episode later, I love that they're operating, you know, when the characters are operating,
when it's in
that
flight
console, it's like it really is like do this, then do this, and everything. And it really does give the wonderful illusion that every one of those, everything they're doing is affecting something. I love it.
Now and again, Gary, I can feel like when I'm watching classic Doctor Who, it's like no other show on television. And it's as if it does exist in its own little bubble, because at the time, there wasn't a huge amount of science fiction being made in Britain.
Right.
And so it had kind of got the market sort of semi-cornered. And so all the technology, all the sets, all the various devices in it are often very peculiar to it. But something like this, when you see a set like the set for this spacecraft here, I think when I see sets like this, it anchors it in the same sort of era as Irwin Allen's Lost in Space and the Time Tunnel. And you think, oh, okay, now I see it, the same kind of aesthetic. And that's also, unfortunately, in Doctor Who's case, that's when we become more so aware of the budgetary restraints on this show that some of those probably didn't have.
But you know what? I mean, the great thing, and one of the reasons why I think I'll always just be totally in love more with the classic series is because we as viewers kind of have to meet the production halfway. And so we're more like invested in kind of for ourselves, making it feel real and everything. We don't think about budget. We don't think about like the sets and everything, because we want it to be real. We want it to be, you know, a full-on working ship. And so this is enough for us, you know?
Well, and
It's
also,
certainly enough for me.
You've got the thing that's lovely, that everything you see on screen was physically there. It was built, it was a set, it was made. Whereas I think for me that always makes it so much easier just to fill in the gaps of what you can't see, because you've got enough that your mind can recognise.
Yep.
It can sort of go, right, here's what probably the rest of the wall would have looked like, or here's what, like Dan said, if you go in that door, what's going to be the kind of room there. Like, because it's physically there and it's so well made, even with the budget, it's just sort of does enough for the imagination, I think, a lot of the time.
And isn't it? I just got to shout out to the production people, because if you look at that frontal shot of the console where we can see everything, they didn't need to do all that. They didn't need to put all that there. But the fact that they went to the trouble of making it look like a full-on working console, you know, with everything there, just shows how dedicated they were. They didn't need all that, but the fact that it has it all is great. And the last thing I'll say right now is, isn't it amazing that a room like this, which we can look at it now from the 2026 and we go, wow, how spare, how minimalist, that this is all they needed to create 25 minutes of gripping drama.
Yeah, it's kind of mind blowing, really, but it works. And I suppose Doctor Who fans, we kind of think about things perhaps a little bit too much, but it worked then, very much works now for me too. Okay, something else that works for me is a returning guest panelist as well, and we have one of those for you this time. He's got up extra early to be with us this time because he just had to get it out and come and goof around with us for a little while like the old days. So yeah, it's very, very early for him. A real life time traveller back on deck at Type 40 Live, Mr. Matt Pott.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me fine?
Yeah,
we
it's a lot
can.
better now, Matt.
Hello.
Yeah, that's good. Hello. I really love that set. I half expected Liberace to come out and play it on the console.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, he would not have liked
Good
that
work.
chair. That chair, like, I don't know, this was supposed to be a luxury ship, for the for Mavic Chen, and I look at it and I go, okay.
Hey, Matt,
I don't think Mavic Chen would sit in that chair.
I think the
Do you
pilots have got very
that's
four
Matt?
arms.
Matt, do you think that's why Mavic Chen betrayed the solar system because he was ticked off that he didn't have a better chair?
I don't think he had a better ship, but I do love the design of the ship, though. I really do. It's something completely unique. It reminds me of something out of UFO, the Jerry Anderson show, with the UFOs they used to have. So yeah, no, I love it. I loved everything about it, even I would say tackiness, because I don't expect a technology back then used to have wood veneers. And it was, even our TV had wood veneer on the side. And it just suits the era so much. And like,
But Matt, it's one thing to have the wood veneer TV. Did you have the matching wood veneer remote control as well, like I did?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, I was the remote control.
Matthew, change the channel over. Channel 7, Channel 10.
Exactly. Knock.
Good stuff. Oh, lots of blasts from the past. I'm glad everybody loves the Spa as much as I do. But obviously the Spa is a supermarket here in Great Britain. And so it's rather confusing. Every time I go and say it, I think, no, it's not called the Spa. It can't be called the Spa. It turns out it is. Okay, Doctor Who, our happy place. And I don't think we've really been as happy for a long time as we have in the last 2 or 3 weeks at the news that some missing episodes that we thought were lost forever have been returned. That's the bulk of our conversation on this edition of the show. Nobody ever needs to force Doctor Who fans at gunpoint, do they, to talk about the whole missing episode saga. It's as enthralling now as it was, I think, when we first started to realize there were missing episodes in the early 80s. But we all have different kind of relationships with the material, don't we? And experiences do tend to differ. The things that do bind us together are the joy, I suppose, when we see stories break like this. Matt, we've covered this extensively over the last 2 or 3 weeks. Lost Doctor Who episodes coming to BBC iPlayer for Good Friday. The Nightmare Begins and Devil's Planet are from the 3rd series, entitled The Daleks Master Plan. Great job, BBC Media Centre. They're not short on facts, but these were obviously returned with a small stash of film cans from one particular collection. Film is fabulous, and we've gone over this story several times. Obviously, support Film is fabulous. If you're in a position to do so, there'll be lots of reminders about them and their work throughout this edition of the show, and as we move on. I've thought over the last few days, particularly since the run in to the episodes appearing on the iPlayer, you could sense anticipation building, couldn't you? And I think part of that was the fact that people were finishing work early as well, Charlotte, because that does happen, doesn't it? People, you sort of get geared up for the weekend, and you've got longer time to play. But there was something definitely special about the mood in the fandom beforehand, and it does seem to have carried through now afterwards.
Yeah, and I think what was lovely is, it felt like this was such a unifying thing that people from all parts of the fandom, all ages, all camps, like all of the usual arguments and all the stuff that we usually can get a bit angry about or a bit upset with each other about just didn't matter, and it all just went away, and we could just all look forward to Doctor Who. And I think that's something that has been missing, just that pure enjoyment of we can all watch a Doctor Who and talk about it and just enjoy the episode again. Like, we shouldn't have that as a novelty, but we have, I think. So that was what I saw a lot in the run-up. It was, like I said, that anticipation, that excitement. And I think it's for some of the younger ones, it, like some of the kids I know who would sort of, either their parents did it, sort of their parents put it on for them. It was having young eyes on this material, which I thought also was such a lovely thing to see so many kids sort of excited, or parents talking about, I'm going to show it with my kids, they're going to sit and watch it with me.
It's never going to take the pain away completely, is it, Luke? But
no. It does. It very much does. It's just a very... it's a very unifying experience, and it's like everyone. Like, I held off watching it until Saturday, and I know a lot of people did because of the screening as well. And it was just everyone was watching it at their own pace over the course of the weekend, and it was just everyone was very, very happy, and it was like, oh, this is really weird. We don't do this in this fandom anymore. It's like we don't all agree on something. So yeah, it was. We were all watching it, and we were like, "This is very odd. This feels very strange to be doing this." But yeah, it was amazing, absolutely amazing.
To hold fire out of a sense of community as well, because Doctor Who fans, we aren't known for our patience, are we, Gary? I mean, how have you noticed the conversation around this over the last 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, it seemed to. It seemed to start with shock, the fact that, we couldn't believe, when we got the news. And then shock immediately transformed into, I want to see it right now. And then over the couple days, as all the plans came together and everything, it was just like, it sounds cliche, but it was kind of like Christmas. It's like, now we know we're about to get this gift. We have to wait a couple of days or a week or whatever. We ended up getting it sooner than we thought we would, by a couple of days, which is great. But yeah, you're right, this was a remarkably unifying event.
It did feel, didn't it, that, and obviously this is the first instance of Doctor Who's being returned through the work of Film is Fabulous, and so it all felt different to previous examples, Matt, of earlier missing episodes getting recovered or simply being handed back or whatever. This felt completely different. And just as Gary said, as it got closer to the day, things seem to be changing all the time for us to keep up with. But I suppose it's early days for Film is Fabulous, and we've just got to sort of to keep up with whatever they're doing, and with understanding and support, and then hopefully it'll all come together, and it very much did. I mean, obviously, where you are in another hemisphere, you've got a different but similar relationship with Doctor Who as a cultural thing in Australia, because you've had it almost as long as we have, and there's been missing episodes turn up from there, hasn't there? So, have you been following it as closely as we have?
Yeah. Well, I remember the. Seeing that the episode 2 from the Lost DVD set, and I was like, this is what they're going on about being so fantastic and everything. And because it was never shown here or whatever, I couldn't ask anyone about it. So, to find out that those missing bookend 1 and 3 were found, and we're going to be, we were going to finally get them, and we're going to be able to watch 3 episodes in a row. I thought, oh, finally, the second episode's going to make more sense. And I tell you what, I just absolutely loved it. But I do know that in Australia, that particular story was not shown here. And actually, they sent it back because back then they used to chop the hell out of all Doctor Who's.
That's right.
but to be honest, without that, there's a lot of things like the macra and those sort of creatures that you would have never ever seen. You know, Fury from the Deep, you would never have seen. You know, there's that famous one with the guy with his mouth agape and that. Without EABC cutting that out, you wouldn't even have any of that. So, you know, so in a way, it was sort of like a necessary evil that worked out in the end for everybody. And it was just a shame that.
You've just reminded me of the feeling that I always had watching the Hartnell and the Troughton Years tapes on VHS, and then the Lost in Time collection. You'd make your way through those sorts of orphaned episodes of things, Luke, and some of them would make more sense than others. But as Doctor Who fans, I think we watch them anyway, and we kind of take them for what they are. And if we can't follow the story and necessarily know what went on before and what would come afterwards, you kind of latch onto a performance or a set like we just have a few minutes ago. There'd be something of interest there. I think we'd look for reasons to cherish it, because that's what Doctor Who fans are. I think, largely speaking, we are quite an optimistic bunch as a breed. It could be just me. Okay, so you're gonna get our views on all of this. The 2 episodes that have brought the count down to 95, and as ever, we'll want you to chip in with your opinions as well. We want your stories about how and when you watched them, who you watched them with. Were they worth the wait? And have they inspired you, either recharged your viewing experience? You've got a whole list of other 60s episodes lined up to watch on iPlayer or DVD or Blu-ray. How has this entire event affected you? Let us know. This may be 2026, but all of that can go on pause for the time being, I think, while we celebrate here at Type 40 Live, Rumble, X, YouTube and Facebook. As always, we're going to get stuck right into it now, find out what we all think, because I don't really know what the guys have got to say. We haven't spoken for a few days. We're going to take your comments too, and obviously pay our respects to everybody involved with bringing them to the television in the first place, whether they were behind the scenes or in front of the camera there.
Hello, this is Sue Molden. On behalf of the team, I'd like to say how overwhelmed and extremely grateful we are to everyone who has donated so far. The response has been magnificent, and we are especially grateful to those who have pledged regular donations. A big thank you from all of us at Film is Fabulous.
So yeah, off we go. We've taken this state-of-the-art 60s looking spacecraft for a spin. The quickest route back from an exciting Easter weekend to share our experiences to the 2 returned episodes of the Daleks' Master Plan. There they were, as stated, 6 a.m. Friday morning on the BBC iPlayer. That even bumped them up to the top row there in the Whoniverse hub. So those 1 and 3, they now sit there with the other 3 episodes that we'd already got that had previously been returned, forming a narrative we can actually follow. A story that we can get enough of a grip of to make a real event of, to plan watch parties or viewing patterns or whatever we want to do, and to look at, even if you're really familiar with these episodes from over the years, to look at them in a new light. The story of the missing episodes themselves, it's riveting, it's complicated, and there are villains, but there are lots of heroes too. And when precious chunks of Doctor Who's past do return, obviously the big question is, once the lights have gone down and the TV or the app or whatever, however you're watching it, is on, how do they hold up to our expectations? Within a couple of days of them being announced that they were being returned, we got together and spoke about it here on the show, and it was all very exciting and very passionate. But now we're on the other side. what do we think? Luke, you were planning a watch party, as I remember. You said earlier on, you even held off watching until your friends were ready, your community were ready. Tell us some more about that. And when you did sit down to watch it, how many of you were there? And what did you think? What was the vibe like?
So we all had a kebab at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which was a bit of a it was a bit of a mad one, to be fair. Yes, we had Mr. Dominic G. Martin up for his sins, bless him. He was up and down in the same day. We're a mad guy coming up from Staines. I know that's like nothing in American travel terms. They travel all over the country, but we had Mr. Martin up. We had Jamie Carroll. We had Rob Peters. We all chilled out. We had kebab. We watched the university, is it Preston UCAN one, the mission to the unknown remake. We watched that first, then we watched the Doctor Who Mid-Journey Mythmakers video, and then we watched 1, 2, and 3 back to back.
So you build up like 3 or 4 hours worth of programming there, based on, if people don't know, those are 2 fan-made projects, aren't they? So the UClan remount, I suppose, full remount of Mission to the Unknown was put together about 6 or 7 years ago, wasn't it? Full cast in black and white, looked incredible, all done to the actual script. And then Doctor Who in the Mid-Journey, who's a friend of the channel, who's been on, he put together a prequel made up of segments of the Tale of the Mythmakers. Tell us some more about that.
Yeah, it was, very good AI, like very good. As somebody who used to work in AI, it was brilliant. And the Mission to the Unknown as well. Obviously, I think Nick Briggs does the Dalek voices in that as well, and they've got the BBC. The BBC have got their fingers all over that, haven't they? But yeah, like fair play to them. It's for what they made, considering it's like a student production, especially Mission to the Unknown, is absolutely incredible, and it's free to watch on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. Subscribe on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. We had a nice little day watching all that. Nice little kebab.
Weren't you impatient to see the stuff you hadn't seen before? Were there some people resistant to that?
Not really. I think we were just
enjoying the kebabs too much.
Yeah,
just get that down, and worry about it later.
It was a nice kebab. They do vegan, they do veggie or vegan kebab meat. Work that out. Like, what is going on with the world? We were just having just a day of just watching this event. It was just like, are we watching the Super Bowl, the World Cup final, WrestleMania? We were like, we're gonna take this couple of hours and just enjoy this new Doctor Who, essentially. And it was incredible. Apart from Katarina, who did my absolute tits in the entire time.
There I was thinking everybody was going to be touched. I thought people were going to be touched by this character, Charlotte, a companion, a sort of an honorary companion, I think, over the years that we knew next to nothing about. And now we have the bulk of her on-screen appearances in the archive and a story to follow, to get a handle on the character. I mean, for me, that was one of the joys of sitting down to watch this. I mean, you've heard me talk about intense, rowdy experience there, watching it with a group of friends. How was yours in comparison?
Well, I watched it on the Saturday because I wanted to sort of take my time, but I didn't have like a really rigid plan. And I put the first one on. Oh, and also, first thing I was impressed by, it was front page on the iPlayer. It wasn't even just in the Doctor Who section.
Yeah.
So well done, BBC. You actually made it front and centre, which I was
Did they really? They put it on They put it top.
Yeah, like on the top where you have like new stuff and trending, and where they tend to, your eyes is designed for your eye. It was, both of them were up there, so that was lovely to see. And I watched the first one, and then a couple of hours had gone by, and I just happened to watch all the episodes that we had. It was sort of not a planned, and I think...
So you hadn't planned on watching all 3 in one sitting, but you did?
Well, no, I watched every bit of the Dalek Master Plan.
Oh, right, okay. Oh,
right the way through to episode 10.
Yeah. I didn't plan that. I started at number 1, and then I think it was just I was enjoying them so much. And it was, like you said, because you could follow the story more. And it was just I think it was just the excitement of watching it. After the end, I was just like, oh, I didn't plan to watch every single one on the iPlayer I could, but I did. So it was a very good day spent for me.
Did people have to bring you a food parcel halfway through, or how did you sustain yourself?
Well, I did it early enough that I wouldn't be late for my tea, so that was the good thing. But I just sat and watched them, and it was just sort of that thing of the time just flew by in the best way, and I had that proper feeling of, oh, what happens next? Like, oh, how are they going to get out of this one? Even when, like Matt said, bits of it were clearly, I had to go, right, I can tell bits of the story are missing, so I have to try and work out what's happening near the end.
Yeah. You heard Luke there. He's not a big fan of Katarina. What do you think about Katarina as played by Adrian Hill, a character we knew so little about before?
I can see the appeal because she's so wide-eyed, isn't she? She's so sort of, she wants to investigate, and there's that line the Doctor has about her, that she just wants to learn. And we've said this, companions, when they're from the past, like Katarina, like a Jamie, like sort of even, or from the future, because they have such a unique viewpoint, it makes them so interesting to watch. And I think that's the thing with Katarina. She's sort of this really interesting character in every way. But I've got to be honest, my big takeaway, as much as I love Katarina, the more I'm just like, oh, I wish Peter had stayed longer. Like, that's my takeaway from these episodes, and we'll get more into that later. But I thoroughly was enjoying Peter's sort of acting and what he did with Stephen in these missing episodes. Because I think it's a really good it's a really good showcase for him as well, this story.
Because we still have to sort of latch on to him because we don't know who she is, and it's not as if they have the luxury of time to dig deeper into the character of Katarina. Is it Gary? You know, she's there in the way that a lot of supporting characters are in Doctor Who. In fact, you could say that a lot of supporting characters that have been throughout, particularly the classic show, had more screen time in one story than Katarina does across her 5 episodes. But we've at the end of the day, we've still got a Doctor, we've got 2 companions from the get-go, and so if you haven't seen anything from this era at all or in a while, it's familiar enough for the beginning of a brand new Doctor Who story that people can sort of keep, oh, she's sort of new, he's kind of been around for a while. The cornerstones are all still there.
Yeah. So so I have thoughts. I'll get to Katarina in a second. I just want to say how I watched it very much mirrored a lot of the way Luke did it. I did the university mission to the unknown, and then the mid-journey clip, and then the 3 episodes. But I parsed it out, and here's why. Because I was thinking, okay, I don't want to blow, just for me, I didn't want to blow through it because I thought, well, for all I know, this is the last time that I'll have to enjoy a recovered missing episode. So I don't want to just kind of blow through it and get it over with, you know. So basically, the first day I did and everything was on, luckily everything was on the US YouTube. So I was able to watch it on all of my big screen. So first day I did the university Mission of the Unknown production, and then the mid-journey clip with the End of the Myth Makers. And then I did the first episode of Dalek's Master Plan. And that was all for one day. And then the next day I did on my Lost in Time set, I watched episode 2. And then the day after that, I watched episode 3, because when I first watched Doctor Who, it was like 1 episode a day, you know, on TV. So I kind of wanted to recreate that and just limit myself, you know, to 1 a day with that experience and kind of extend out the whole process a little bit more. One thing about Katarina is that it is interesting that just with the, you know, with 2 recovered episodes and then rewatching the episode 2 in the middle, that all of a sudden we have the bulk of her time on the show. But it's interesting that you can kind of see why long term that character might not have been workable. I mentioned this during a chat we were having yesterday, which is that if you have a character like Victoria, like from the mid 19th century, or even Jamie, that's kind of close enough to where, yeah, they'd be behind on some things. They would need a couple of things explained, but overall, they could kind of keep up. When you have a character from ancient Rome who is literally unfamiliar with everything that is familiar to us in terms of, technology, progress, medicine, everything, that's kind of hard to weave into like an ongoing basis, because as we saw in these 3 episodes, the doctor has to stop and explain even the most basic things to her, which is like
switch does or something like
yeah,
that.
which is like, don't question anything, just stand here and flip this switch when I tell you. And the doctor even praises Katarina. Why can't you be more like Katarina? She just kind of stands off to the side and listens and learns. And I thought, well, that's kind of sounds like a compliment, but that is like a damning indictment of that character, if you think about it.
In all truth, I think that where Luke is at with the character, I can see how I could eventually get there. All that talk about the place of perfection and that kind of wide-eyedness. Ideally, that has to go somewhere. Characters can't remain in that place. Jamie certainly changed a lot. Most characters do, but in this instance, it starts to go pear-shaped for Katarina. Fairly quickly.
I think even on somewhere on YouTube, I didn't watch it as part of my my watch this weekend. On YouTube, I think somewhere is the only existing clip from episode 4, which is her death scene, which comes at the beginning of spoilers. Sorry, the beginning of episode 4. And I was thinking she really is kind of a tragic character, because she comes in at the end of the Mythmakers and she's with the doctor for what, maybe a day in terms of story terms, maybe 2 at the outside. But I think you can probably collapse everything that happens in the first 3 episodes of the Dalek Master Plan into a day, maybe a little longer, and then she's killed after traveling with the doctor for less than 2 days. So I thought, in terms of story terms, I thought she's really a tragic character.
It is weird because it does feel like she's been with him for longer. So you relied on the YouTube channel. So that's the classic Doctor Who YouTube channel there in America, which was, I gather it was only America that could access that. It wasn't in all territories, but they'd had a lot of inquiries, hadn't they, from Americans? When can we see this? From people all over the world. Yeah. Gary, and as I understand it, this was again something that was announced fairly late in the day. So that must have been just a delightful surprise, like you say, that you could watch it full screen, no problem at all, and feel like you're part of it in the same way that the people who watched it, apart from all you were missing was a kebab, and you could have been at Luke's watch party.
Well, I'm sure that my invitation just got lost in the mail, so I'm sure that next time, I'll show up on knocking on Luke's door, because I love kebabs.
I'm out that day.
All right.
I'm busy. Sorry.
Very good. So, Matt, obviously you're in another territory in the southern hemisphere, and you weren't going to be best served by the situation. I mean, in many respects, it is what it is, isn't it? This is a whole setup which is brand new, and we're all sort of trying to keep up with when things were announced and what the intentions were and where it could go and when and how. So that must have been quite strange for you, but you were able to watch them in the end.
Yeah, thankfully to VPN for doing that. But
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, a lot of the things that we had in the past, like, Power of the Daleks they never really showed any lost episodes, but like when the animated shows came out in the UK, they would come here and be able to be on our version of the iPlayer for ABC. But since we don't have any Doctor Who on any channel now, any any sort of streaming service, it sucks. So I had to bite the bullet and do a VPN, but it's only for this time only. I don't really. There's not much on BBC content I want to see really, except for Doctor Who.
So how did you gear yourself up to watch it then? Once you realised you could, how did you prepare for seeing brand new old Doctor Who?
Well, I made sure that I had the Lost In DVD in ready to play, because I wanted the best quality I possibly could. And I don't know, it was kind of weird actually watching those. I don't think they updated the episode 2 as much as they did for 1 and 3. I don't know when they found the episode 2, Dan. Was that early on in 2000?
It was in 2004.
Yeah, so that was you can definitely tell that there is a difference between the quality and the restoration process that they've used, but I just glazed over it really. And I mean, especially the film element still looked perfect. You know, the bits that they had with the Daleks and that, with the flamethrowers and that still looked all perfect. So it worked out well. But I really wanted to watch all 3 together. And it was a long time since I'd seen episode 2. So, but I remember watching it and going, is this really this important and that? But it was. And especially with the character of Katarina, I was always a little bit glossed over because no one knew anything about Katarina. We just knew that she died. And when I was watching it, I kind of realized I cared about the character when she turned around to the Doctor and she said, "You make me feel safe." And the pit in my stomach just dropped because I was like, oh no, this is not going to end well. and so, but I've met women like Katarina who are very ethereal and very out there, like a hippie type thing. And, they think they're cats and all that sort of thing. They go around meowing and all this weird stuff. And so I kind of understood Katarina, but I could not see her going long term. And as you know, I haven't been the biggest Hartnell fan. I loved him in this. This was awesome. Simon introduced me to the Aztecs, and I really loved him in that. And I sort of softened really much to Hartnell because I just found him too abrupt. And when I saw the Aztecs, I really softened up to him, and I thought, hey, this is my Doctor. I really love this Doctor, and this is more of that. I love his cheekiness. The bit where he goes up to the door and he goes, "He left the key in. He's just silly. He left the key in." I love it. I love all that, And I don't think you would have got that if you just heard the audio. Yeah. And I think with his performance, physical performance, I just love it, and I just wish for more doctorish stuff like that, but these episodes, I absolutely adored them, and I'm like Charlotte, I wanted more, but I kind of thought, you know what, I don't think it's going to work with with just the audio, so I haven't watched any further, and I don't really want to see Katarina bite the dust. But it was nice to be represented, by the way. So, but yeah, and I mean Nicholas Courtney. Oh my God, absolutely chewed the scenery. He just really did. He really he just slotted in so well into this world. And I still don't get the magnetic chair. I'm like, does it hold human flesh down? What? Well,
it's one of those delightfully batty ideas that you would get more often than not in particularly 60s sci-fi, Luke. I mean, seeing Nicholas Courtney in this, I understand there were some Doctor Who fans out there that didn't know that Nicholas Courtney was in this at all, so they got a big surprise. But I was startled by how quickly, I've seen episode 2 before. I'm familiar with this story, but I was surprised how quickly I forgot about the Brigadier and just got really invested in Brett Vion as a character. And his sort of whole persona as being we see versions of that character in other Doctor Who stories. Of course, we do that kind of the irate guy, often serving in some sort of space force, who's simply got to get on with his job, and the Doctor's getting in the way. But it's never got old for me, and I just thought this was a great proto example of that.
Yeah, I thought he was great. He was commanding from day dot, wasn't he? As soon as he was in, he had that presence.
Yeah.
He was, you believed that this guy is that. And watching it, I completely forgot about the Brigadier. Seeing him by the TARDIS console was just like, oh, okay, that's cool. But you can absolutely see why they were like, oh, let's get this guy back, like more or less permanently, because he's just so good and he's incredibly captivating. And if you're going to build a unit around someone to spar against Patrick Troughton, that's your guy right there. Like, he was absolutely brilliant.
Because when he was the Brigadier, the Brigadier never came up against the Daleks. Oh, he was in the Day of the Daleks, wasn't he? Of course he did.
Yes.
Yeah, but he didn't have like a proper Dalek story, as in just they were the only villains, I don't think.
No, maybe not. Maybe
not. I was just going to say quickly, one of the great things I thought about Courtney's performance in this is that, from the minute you see him, he's like commanding, let's do this, and all of that. But when he finds out from the Doctor that Mavic Chen, his supreme leader, is in league with the Daleks, he's like rocked. I mean, and he plays that really well, where he is like just like stunned and thrown and sheer disbelief. I can't believe it. What do you mean that he's working with the Daleks? We got to get back to Earth. And he plays that kind of transition from, like the, stone cold, dead certain, man of action to now it's like, wow,
because he's out there. He's out there, as you say, representing, serving in something that he believes in, and the man who sits atop that has proven to be unworthy of his loyalty, of his trust. And this is something that, even though, again, I've seen episode 2 several times, I've heard the audio dramas, I've watched the recons and things like that, but the story has never hanged together as well as it does when you watch all 3. And the consequences, when you see those emotions play on people's faces in moving images, and this is no slight on the whole program of putting out audio soundtracks, and certainly not on the novelists, but it really does come to life with this in a way that I haven't seen it before. Yeah. I mean, I had a similar experience to all of you. I planned on stripping it. This sounds, now when we're on the other side of it, it sounds like a silly idea. It sounds it was never going to happen realistically, was it? But I told myself I was going to try and watch one of the 3 episodes, 1, 2, and 3 per night, and sort of stagger it in the way that you were going to, Gary. I thought that would be a sort of, then I could take it all in. It wouldn't all be spent in next to no time. Yep. But again, just like Matt, I was going down the road of VPNs, and I thought, well, I'm sort of settled down to watch it now. So in the end, my experience ended up being very much like Charlotte's. So I started watching episode 1. I found it absolutely riveting. Everything about it. How you were just describing how Brett Vion, how he was, the atmosphere of the story, which I suppose was largely down to the work of Douglas Camfield to convince us that we are where we are, and to get the actors working together in the way that they were, to convince that they knew one another, and again with that sort of new-ish companion. So I was just drawn in that I had to see where it went, and I just carried on watching. Before I knew it, I'd watched all 3 in one sitting. I was a touch bleary-eyed, but I'd done all 3, and I felt like I'd watched, even though this is only, so it's 12 episodes, isn't it, the Dalek Master Plan? So this is only a quarter of a story, Luke. I feel that this portion of it is kind of told within the body of these 3. So it is kind of, it is. I think it's the equivalent of watching. If you look at the Trial of a Time Lord, it's the equivalent of watching maybe The Mysterious Planet and then not being able to see Mind Warp.
Yeah, it's a shame that because you're getting into it as well, and the Doctor's up to like William Hartnell is superb, isn't he? He's just great. He's just
Never
like
better.
he's like that little funny uncle who's up to his weird tricks, and he's just playing. And he's like, right, he's doing this, and then he's dressing up, and you're like, right, okay, cool. Like the Doctor's just up to his like
It's
playful
all those
best.
trappings. I think it's all those trappings, Luke, of being a sort of magical and sort of sprightly character, a little playful, and pulling off things like you say, playing dress up. He's wearing his hoodie, isn't he? In that, so he's doing all of that, and yet he's managed to measure it absolutely perfectly, whereby he hasn't lost the edge that he'd had previously from the start that had put Matt off. That's still there, but it's just a bit more refined. Yeah,
because he's instantly the Doctor. Like, you know, you see impersonation. Now you've got Richard Hurnell, and you've got oh god, who does it for the
David Bradley?
The guy for, David Bradley. I was going to say Filch from Harry Potter. You got them doing like their own interpretations, and like especially the David Bradley one as well. And you see how different he is actually, and it's like William
totally different. Yeah,
has a lot more sense of joyous and fun, but when he's serious, and he kind of flips that switch straight away, and he's trapping him in the magnetic chair, and he's like, right, you stay here, and you can see it's just like it flips it on a dime, and it's like he has total control of that character. But you also you kind of can tell like you would be safe with this guy if you're out traveling with him.
Yeah,
it's like you'd have fun, but you'd be safe.
Go on, Matt.
Up until this point with Hartnell, my favorite story of Hartnell's that was actually a complete story was the Ark. I really liked him in that story. Now that was probably a couple or three or four stories after this particular episode, because it still had Peter Purvis' character still in here. So, but he just seemed to be in his right element around this period of 65 and just towards before his end time. It just seemed he had this character down pat, and whether or not he sort of decided to move it a different take to what he originally was going to do it as, and maybe because all the kids loved him, that he decided to become even more grandfatherly towards everybody else.
I think it was a mix of that. I think it was a mix of that, Matt. I think it was a mix of that, Matt, and increased confidence and security, knowing that the show had been a hit and that people loved him in this part.
Yeah, and now that I've seen him in more stuff, I just to me that it like he is the Doctor. He is the first Doctor to me. He is the template for every other one that came after him.
Template.
The thing with Hartnell is it's such a hard thing to get the balance of what he was clearly doing at this point with the Doctor. That, like you said, at times he could still be Sergeant Major. He could still be that sort of, I'm saying what we're going to do, you're going to do it. Sort of having that approach. And he was like that with Nicholas Courtney's character, even with Stephen a couple of times he sort of told him off. So you've got that. But like you said, you've got almost like the pixie sort of energy, I refer to it as, with him, when he's giggling or when he's having a bit of fun.
Well, Charlotte, there was a scene in this, and when I watched again, it was on reflection when I sat back and thought about what I'd seen. There was a scene in this, a sequence in this, where he goes off, he makes his way through the jungle to find out exactly what's going on. He comes across the Daleks, and he's eavesdropping, isn't he? Yeah. On their plan, on what they're up to, and you see him sort of skulking behind the scenery, sort of against this sort of. It's one of those sort of iconic shots of Hartnell where he's sort of in silhouette with those bars coming across his face. So he's in shadows, and we can sort of believe in that. We can invest in that, and he's listening to what they're doing. And he's shocked at first to see the Daleks, and he's listening to their plan, to their plot. But then after he's sort of taken it all in and sort of done a little bit of Hartnell business, sort of the close-ups, the next time we see him, he's sort of shuffling across the studio floor again, like it's the most natural thing in the world.
Yeah.
In some ways, it's pure kind of Hanna-Barbera. We don't know how he got. How on earth did he? It's one thing to get away, to get in there and not be caught, but he got out as well and still wasn't caught. But we just accept it because he's in the zone, in that character. He convinces us that he's that capable that he could do that.
Well, and that's the thing. It's the layers of what he's doing with the acting and the writing at this point. The First Doctor has evolved so much. The other thing that I love that you see multiple points of this story, whether it's for Katarina or when he sort of goes to find the cure for Stephen. Like I said, he can be very Sergeant Major, he can be, but then here you see compassion quite a few times with him, but it's still sort of hidden. He doesn't do it over the top. It's just sort of, it's like, I like that moment when it's in the second episode where he finds Steve and they've come out the TARDIS, and he sort of just roughly sort of pats his leg and says, "Come on, boy, come on." And like, it's said in that way, but you can tell that's him saying, "Come on, I'm happy you're well, but we need to move. Like we're in danger."
I don't remember that bit. I've only watched them once. Has anybody watched them multiple times? I know that when I go back and I watch this sort of a second time, a third time, there'll be loads that I didn't see. Have you watched it multiple times at all, Luke? Have you gone back to it?
No, just been busy, so just haven't had the time. But yeah, no, the scene that Charlotte's on about, we thought was great because obviously he's just Stephen's spoiler. Stephen's just getting over his poisoning, and William Hartnell's like, "Right, good, come on in, shift, get over there," and you're like, give him 5 minutes. Jeez, come on, calm down.
And that's the funness of that scene, because he's being practical, he's being sensible. But I think if he would have got the Doctor from season 1 in that moment, he wouldn't have even have touched the leg or been like, "Come on, boy." He wouldn't have used that term of phrase. It would have just been, "Right, we're moving." Like, you would have just got that. And I find with the First Doctor, he's so impacted, and I think a lot of it's subtext and a lot of it's the acting, but he's so shaped by his companions.
Yeah.
Like, if you compare season 3 Hartnell to that season 1 Hartnell, it's such an evolution of character. And what I love is that I think that's through the people he's met. That's through Susan, that's through Barbara, that's through Ian, that's through Vicky. He's had all these companions at this point.
I think Stephen in particular is the first one that doesn't treat him like he's an old man necessarily.
Yes.
Yeah, he comes off more as a devious pixie in this one. Like like there's something magical about him, and the fact that he is so willing to just wants to know what is going on, and everybody else is like, "Can we get out of here?" And he's like, no, I want to find out, and so he literally gets this costume, and oh man, did I love that costume. I was just like, I don't think it was Hartnell under it, but
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was.
I don't know. I think at the beginning and at the end, when he was taking it off, it was. But I think during that scene in the room with all the people that are
all the delegates,
all the delegates. That's the word. I don't think that was him. It just didn't. Oh,
maybe not.
Permeate from him. It could have been anyone.
Because that whole notion, as dark as this story is, Charlotte, it does feel. I wouldn't say it feels claustrophobic, but you do feel there's this kind of pressing darkness that this is all desperately important, and the Daleks look more malevolent than ever. And when you've got people discovering a skeleton in a jungle, that's all really kind of very visceral. And yet, for the children watching, you've got Doctor Who. He's not being silly as such, but he'll play dress up. He'll disguise himself. I wouldn't say it's pantomime, but it's kind of high adventure. And so there's enough in there. The balance is just right.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking nowadays with writing, I feel like the crop of writers we've had the last couple of years, they've not understood that you can have very dark themes, you can have dread, you can have despair, but you need to balance it out with moments of light.
It's not just Charlotte, it's not just a Doctor Who problem, it's an everything problem.
Oh, yeah,
If you watch a lot of movies and TV, that it's as if nobody can do that anymore.
Oh no, I was talking generally. I understand. I wasn't saying to do Doctor Who. I've noticed it in media, films and TV. And I think they've not understood that as humans, we can't have a whole series or a whole film where we're just depressed all the time. Do you think it's
down to a more sort of atomized viewing experience whereby kind of there's more demographic feels than there were before? Because there used to be probably about 4. There's probably about 12 now, made up of combinations of age groups and genders and locations and devices. Whereas at one point it used to be just age brackets, and that was largely and maybe people who watched with their nan or with their kid. And do you think that could be it?
I don't know, because I've seen it in different genres, I've seen it in different formats, and it's that same writing issue. And like this story is a good example of that. Like you've got the bit with the Briggs character, and that's like second soldier with him.
I love how you call him the Brig.
It's the Brig. Here's the thing. I get what you guys are saying, but for me, I can see all the bits that later on were going to be the Brig. I can almost see the beginning of that character in this story.
Yeah.
So for me, it's hard not to call him the Brig. That's how I sort of felt watching it.
Yeah.
But it's like in that scene with his second, you see a guy who knows he's dead, who knows he can't go with Nicholas Courtney's character, and he's just going to slow him down. And it's a very almost heroic thing he does of, you go, I know what's going to happen. So you have that whole sequence and you see his death. And that doesn't sort of beat around the bushes. That's very graphic. It's very dark. So my point is you have that, but then you have Hartnell, like you said, being utterly charming and having his moments of whimsy. And that's what I'm saying. You need the balance. You need to have both parts of the human experience, I think. And I think writers have lost that now. Whereas you look at stuff like this and it shows you this is how you do it.
Another thing I appreciated, and maybe this is, again, the nature of knowing that they were going for a mammoth 12-week storyline and all that background information about the delegates and the conference and the status of Mavic Chen. There are big stakes in this. It's showing the little people. So it's those sort of supplementary background characters. I thought this pair, I didn't make a note of their names. I thought this pair were brilliant, particularly the guy with this kind of world-weary, oh God, he's off again, kind of rolling his eyes. Because this is the way that people watch the television news now and look at our lead. It's as if he could be staring at some arsehole like Keir Starmer or something. Nothing's really changed. Gary, depending on where your political allegiances sort of lie, there'll be that person that makes you roll your eyes, that you sit back, you kind of watch, and you nudge the person next to you. And so it's all really, really relatable.
Well, and this is a sign of a really good scriptwriter, which I think Terry Nation was.
Do you think Terry Nation do you think that Terry Nation gets done down and that the stuff like this actually vindicates him? And
I think that if you see one or two Terry Nation stories where it's like, oh yeah, he's ripping himself off or whatever. But I think with this story, I mean, they knew this was going to be like a huge epic, and he leapt in with both feet and crafted, as you said, like the first act really in this mammoth story. And I think he does it well. I think the great thing about this scene is that in order to have the guy on again, they don't get names, but to have the man here like watching it, the fact that he was standing there and we can see him mouthing along with what he's saying tells us really not only about this guy, that he's kind of fed up with Mavic Chen and he like eye rolls, but it tells us about Chen. That Chen is this guy who, probably has these platitudes that he mouths, that he has all the time, enough to where this guy knew them by heart, and he thinks he's being a great statesman, but he's just blathering the same phrases over and over again to the extent, like I said, people already have them memorized. That tells us about a little bit about the kind of character that Chen is as well. That's good writing, where we can learn about a character from the way other people are reacting to him. And I think that was really clever. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I was going to say, if every politician now, whenever they're being interviewed, have like either a speech or a talking point that they reiterate over and over and over again, and it was obviously grating on this guy that, and while other people who are probably more on the side of that particular political scale think, oh, he is so wonderful, he speaks to me and everything like this. This is the other side of the guy where he's like, I've heard all this before.
And that's what the girl character represented quite well.
Yes.
She was enthralled by his every word, wasn't she?
And we need a scene like this in order to see how, I guess, for lack of a better term, the common man views Mavic Chen, some with adulation, some with kind of eye rolling. But it makes then the final scene in this episode where, he comes in the room, we only see his feet, and then he's revealed to us. It's like, oh, no, this guy's working with the Daleks. It actually sets that up because through those two characters at the beginning, we know how highly esteemed this guy is. It's great writing from Terry Nation. I want to say... Oh, no, go ahead, Matt.
No, you go, Gary.
No, I was just going to say one thing about Hartnell is that I agree. Hartnell is absolutely compelling in this. I mean, I like Matt's description of his a mischievous pixie, but he still doesn't suffer fools gladly. He's willing now, much more willing than in the first season, to where the first time he meets Brett Vian, he has a gun pulled on him in the back, but then he finds out, no, he gave Stephen the pills that saved his life. He told us to get out of the TARDIS because the Daleks were there. And then the Doctor can flip to go, okay, no, this might be actually a guy I want as an ally. And it makes sense. It's not, he can shift to that. And to Charlotte's point about how much his companions, mean to Hartnell. I mean, in the very next story, the massacre, which, boy, are my fingers crossed that we get that. I would love to see that story. It ends with an argument, and Stephen storms off, and the Doctor thinks and the Doctor has this wonderful soliloquy by himself in the control where he's just kind of reflecting on all his companions that have gone, and now he's by himself now, but that's the way that it's probably always going to be. And it's a wonderful insight into how much the companions mean to Hartnell's Doctor. So no, you were right. I mean, that whole companion Doctor dynamic is great.
I think that the more you see of each of the 60s Doctors, those two early incarnations, the more they are revealed to all of us who weren't fortunate enough, depending on how you look at it, to have been there at the time to watch them broadcast. There are people in the Type 40 community who did see these episodes go out way back then. They were, one I think was 4 or 5 years old. Steve Evans, I think, from the Type 40 Facebook group, he said, I think he was about 9 or 10, something like that. So he can remember watching this. That must be the strangest feeling. Yeah. But for the rest of us, and no matter how well we think we know these incarnations, and we've read the books, we've listened to the recons, that kind of thing. There's always something fresh that comes with a rediscovery. So it's never going to be old news. So there's those sort of characteristics and character moments, but there's also the visual flourishes as well. Douglas Camfield is still considered, I think, to be the series' strongest director, isn't it? It's him. I think it's him and Graham. It's the kind of, depending on who you talk to, I think, or depending on how people are feeling. But there were lots of little instances in this as well that I'd certainly never seen screen caps of, or was aware of descriptions of, Luke, such as when they are the Doctor's been given given chase, isn't he, by those hairy fellas? They look like the hairy bikers, don't they? The convicts who are on the planet. Is it I can't remember what planet is it.
Desperous.
So they're on Desperous, and you can see the landscape, and there's some lights sort of just moving across, flickering the flames, and it says all you need, all it needs to say, and it fits in completely with the mood. It doesn't need to be some elaborate special effect. And yeah, televisions were smaller then, so it would have obviously looked far scarier. But in the context, when you've been watching this sort of archive material for 10 or 20, certainly 30 or 40 minutes, you become immersed in its own boundaries, in the world that it's sort of showing us again. And so it's like, oh God, I wonder who they are. I wonder what they're going to do to them. I wonder what I found this so evocative. And there was lots of moments like this. Like earlier on, we were talking about Katarina when she touches the window and she's looking at the stars. You think, okay, well, again, you think, oh, well, the shape of the character, such as it is, her arc over that handful of episodes, it's that kind of stinking feeling that Matt had. You think, oh God, she's going to be out there in the cold pretty soon. She's going to get a really close look at those stars any moment.
I did love Hartnell's description of the planet as a pimple planet. I did love this pimple of a planet. I loved it. I was just like, yes, that's so awesome. But this scene here with the torches, I was like, with what they had to work with, and they got it straight away. They managed to do it with just a picture and a little bit of overlay with these torches going around. You know that the people aren't there, really, but you know what they were going for, and you're like, oh my God, this is what Hartnell and Katarina are seeing. And you know that they're ready for them because they know exactly what is coming towards them, so that they prepare for it. And I was transfixed. I really was by this scene. I just didn't expect it at all. And the fact that you know that those prisoners are desperate to get off that planet, and they will do anything. They would do anything to get off that planet. And the fact that when they fighting over the knife, well, that's conveyed. Their desperation and their lack of scruples, I suppose. That's conveyed in very short scenes, very short bursts. And yet, as you say, we get it right away. The economy of TV of that age. They can say so much with very little screen time, not that many words, Charlotte, and yet now how much sort of pontificating. How many speeches do we get in drama? I mean, I know that people love the Capaldi speeches. They were always a bit too much for me. Anytime the Doctor speaks for longer than a minute and a half, I think, oh, come on. we know what's going on. It's as if it's some sort of pitch for an award of some kind. It's made to be clipped. Yeah. And I'm very conscious
Emmy clip.
Yeah. It's not just Doctor Who. I say it happens in crime dramas quite a lot, where some detectives are staring into the middle distance or staring right into the eyes of their second. Yeah, it's like, oh, come on, mate, give it a rest. People don't really talk like that. It's not. Is it real drama? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
Well, the thing I noticed, with the camera work here, is a lot of 60s Who. It was very still, the camera. Like, usually the way they would do it is you'd have your two people talking, or you'd have your wide shot, and it could still be very entertaining and brilliant, but that still, it can limit you if you're not clever, if that's the only ones you're playing with. Whereas in multiple times during the two missing ones, and then when I watched the rest of it, I also noticed it. It's how he actually moves the camera, Douglas. It's the fact that he has the sort of the cleverness to go, no, what's going to be more effective is if I put the camera to the floor, for example. There was quite a lot of shots with the Daleks that he didn't start at the top. He started at the bottom and then he went up. And that just, it makes them more menacing. It makes them more scary if you're sort of doing it from the ground perspective. Or like the multiple times when it was bodies, like he would do that from the ground. And I think getting close to the face Or like with Stephen in the first episode, he got quite close to Peter. You could tell the camera was very close to Peter's face. So then when he is in pain, you buy it. You can see how he's in absolute agony. And a lot of that is how the camera's positioned to show that off to the best it can. And I just think with Douglas, I got the impression that he was always thinking, how can I play in the best way? How can I do something a bit different to portray, like you said, without words, what I want, whether that's emotion or mood, or sort of what the characters, how they've been panicked at that moment or feeling pressed by the situation.
Yeah.
And that's what was lovely to see. Whereas if it was an animation, all of that would be lost, because you can't capture that in an animation because it's camera work, so you can't make that suddenly. Like I said, everything's really flat with the animation, sadly, whereas here it feels alive. That's the sort of feeling I got with the camera here.
Another weird thing, Charlotte, is this kind of the seaweed man. We see the character that the Doctor impersonates to get into the meeting. Luke, we can't see that guy's face. We can't see his eyes, his mouth. We can't see any features at all, and yet I suppose it's the body language. It's the way that he speaks. We figure him out, and whilst he's there, sort of snivelling away before he's dispatched, you kind of feel a bit of sympathy for the character, even though we've seen, we know that he hasn't got much in the way of values. This is not a nice character. We're meant to like. I do sort of feel sorry for him when the Daleks sort of move in on him, and we know that it's curtains for the seaweed guy. Yeah. I just love this. Love the entire thing.
you know that he probably didn't go out on a lot of dates.
Unless with another seaweed person.
That's right. I want to follow along with what Charlotte was saying. Douglas Camfield was a master at, especially in the 60s episodes, making the greatest use out of the limited things he had to work with. In this one, in the third episode, where it's just a really quick shot of as the convicts are gathered outside of their, I guess, whatever it is, their cave or whatever, and they're like about to set off through the jungle, and they start pushing some vines aside. I mean, to me, I totally bought that was like a jungle. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I mean, I really feel like these guys are in this expansive jungle, and I know it wasn't. And then in the scene in the conference room, he always does the wide shots with the ramp at the back. Like people coming down the ramps. So you get that
black either side, and so when you follow the ramp down, I felt similar to how I feel when I'm watching a 60s Bond movie. Some of the set design. The name of the set designer for the Bond films escapes me at the moment.
Peter Hunt?
No, the set designer. Who's the guy who used all the shapes? Do you remember I think he took over from Russia with Love.
It wasn't Peter Hunt?
Peter Hunt was second unit director and director. But I can't remember the actual set designer. He went on to design sets for a number of films like that. But again,
Ken Adam. Ken
Adam, that's it. So sharp lines cutting through the black there. With, as you say, it's probably just a piece of MDF that's been painted bright white because it's against the deep black. It's all you need. It looks simple and yet futuristic. At the same time, when you compare it to the set of something like a Star Trek Starfleet Academy with blinking lights and shiny floors and surfaces within surfaces within surfaces, you didn't need any of that. You just need a stark white line breaking through black.
And you know what? We all have to take a second to talk about these delegates. We've got to. I mean, we have the guy who's like a dentist's nightmare. The guy with all of the four.
The guy with the fish teeth.
I love the guy though who has like all the guy in the top right. I was going to say all the bumps up to his neck. It's like that.
He's my favorite.
It's like and then like I said, the guy on the left with the fangs and the cardigan sweater. but still, they're all really distinctive.
The bloke in the morph suit. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good.
I mean,
We're
great.
going to have to take some comments soon because I'm aware that people are listening to us rambling on like that. And we have comments, we have commenters, not least of all Tim Burrows from the Missing Episodes podcast here. Evening, just tuned in. Episodes were rubbish, weren't they? Oh dear. We have been positively salivating over every element of this so far. There's so much more to talk about. Of course there is. But before we move on, a reminder, if you can support Film is Fabulous, there's a link in the description of this video, this edition of the podcast. As always, all the various methods of which you can donate, and you can help their efforts to preserve more film. And who knows, maybe we'll be experiencing something like this at some point in the future. It's hard to say, isn't it? But if this has all meant as much to you as it has to us, you can hear how much we're laughing. Follow the link, look at the various options, and consider what you could do to help Film is Fabulous. Okay, what an event so far. I do feel like I've seen a whole new Doctor Who story here. I am absolutely buzzing. And from over 61 years ago, extraordinary. I'm buzzing so much. I think I need to go and take. Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry. Yeah, it seems as a cue, but I think I do need to go and use the little boys' room. So it's time for the Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break. We're going to go over and enjoy the adverts, then get ready to take some of your comments, find out where you are at with it, and get right into some more of the Daleks Master Plan.
Wear this. It's far too revealing.
Yes. Cut it off. Cut it all off.
I tell you what, love. Let's ask your mother around this weekend. We haven't seen her in ages.
Have a break. Have a Kit Kat.
Peace and love!
In the history of robots, one breed stands out as the epitome of evil, and they're back to wreak mayhem and havoc.
On my foot!
Yeah, I've got the power. Inflict your revenge this Christmas on the new remote-controlled Dalek. Yeah, they've got the lot, the flashing lights, electronic banter, and the idle threats. And they're all useless when it comes to climbing the stairs. The new remote-controlled Dalek is now available for $69.99 by dialing 0800 975 4591.
Back for more Type 40 Live, Rumble X, YouTube and Facebook, talking all things Doctor Who, but specifically these 3 episodes of the Daleks Master Plan that we've had so much fun with over the last few days. They're having a lot of fun here on the studio floor. Okay, so what else have we got to cover? We've got to take your comments. Of course, we have. Thank you to the multitude of people that who've stepped in to help with the early onset of my dementia here. We have several people bringing me up on Ken Adam. There was the set designer on the Bond films. Thank you for helping me out with that. So we're going to take your comments, find out where you're at with all of this. What did you do over the weekend? And what do you think of our observations and things that we've picked up on? What have we missed? What had you missed that we filled you in on? And that's the beauty of all this, isn't it? It's a very back and forth thing. We can help one another out, can't we? And also we want to know what your Easter was like too. Of course we do. Okay, I'm back with the panel. Here they are. We have Mr. Matt Pott here, back in the guest spot after a few months away. Good to have you back, mate. We've got Gary Akers, we've got Luke Walters and Charlotte Shields too, and I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks. Okay, so let's see what people have got to say about this. Yes, lots more Ken Adams. Thank you, everybody. It's Ken Adam. I Am Your Servant has joined us on YouTube, and they add, it's nice to see stuff made by people who believe lighting, angles and atmosphere really do matter. They've got, again, 4:3. The TV's perfectly square, just as William Hartnell knew. didn't he? The power of the close-up. I think anybody who worked in that medium and within those parameters knew them really, really well. What was possible, what wasn't, and what you could convey, and how. And I think that now we're 6 decades on. When did widescreen TV sort of come in? Probably around 1999, 2000. Yeah. It was around that time they started to become, the TV industry started to adopt that. They got more room to play with, and budgets go up, and TV becomes like film, and film sort of becomes like TV. So you've got the kind of morphing of the two. They were worlds apart back in 1965, and I think that needn't necessarily be to the detriment. I think it's, in many respects, it's a strength. Okay, Stephen Braddock has been donating to Film is Fabulous since November. Well done, that man. Thank you. Ian Scale says, evening. The return of these episodes has been one of the most sublime events in the last 20 years of Who. I don't think any of us are going to argue with that, are we, Gary?
No. I mean, like I said, this is a capital E event for just these 2 episodes.
S. Barnes has joined us as well. Several comments about Katarina, the various takes on Katarina, Luke. Soon she'll be doing an Adric. It's S. Barnes. She's only in about the first couple of scenes, is it, of episode 4, the one that follows it?
Yeah,
something like that.
I just think she's the most annoying character ever. Like, oh my god,
great. What was it that particularly irritated you? Was it that kind of we're going to reach the place of perfection? Was it all that sort of wide-eyed goofiness?
I thought the delivery seemed so doughy and so like, oh, Stephen.
That's how people spoke in the 60s.
Here are the pills. Like what the fuck are pills? I'm like, what is this? I was like, oh, I think it annoyed all of us. All of us in the end were just laughing. And if you just watch her reactions in the background, she's just staring off into space. Like she seems like she's stoned the entire time. I know it is when you watch it, so funny. Yeah.
Can you imagine if Luke ever got transported back to ancient Rome, he'd be wandering around going, why can't you people just talk properly?
Yeah, what are your pronouns?
I was going to say, I did laugh the way she gave Stephen the tablets. She nearly dissipated his jawline. It was very like, go on, go in.
Get it down, yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of us have got nans like that, haven't we? We've got Rose Kirby's in the live chat. Hello, folks. 3rd time in less than a week. We are spoilt on Classic Who. It was. We did feel like we were being spoilt all of a sudden, wasn't it? Stephen O'Neill says, I watched the 2 episodes on the BBC iPlayer on Friday morning. Very fast-paced story. It did move quite quickly, Gary, didn't it? When you think back,
all right. This is a good. I'll be brief, but this is when I had a lot of thoughts after I finished watching episode 3. But one of them is that looking back, how inaccurate has been almost all the received wisdom about 60s Who that we got from like 80s reference books, like the Peter Haining stuff or whatever, which before we had a chance to actually see any of this stuff, we took as gospel. Oh, all the 60s stuff is just too slow and boring. Oh, the Daleks' master, Hartnell wasn't great in the science fiction stories. He couldn't do any of the dialogue. 12 parts of Dalek Master Plan. It was just too long, too slow. These 3 episodes sped by. I mean, just the action from place to place to place.
That received fan wisdom, Gary. That received fan wisdom often came from the same 2 or 3 guys who were in, not in privileged positions as such, but were in position to speak, and so speak they did.
Right, but do you see what I mean about how it all like took hold? No, that was the gospel truth. And before we had a chance to actually see any of these episodes, and it's all been proven wrong.
Matt?
The thing that I've noticed the most out of watching these 3 episodes is that the legend of Mavic Chen has lasted 60 years when there's been barely anything that we have seen of him. And the fact that a long time ago, I remember hearing about Mavic Chen, and I was like, "Who? I doubt he was.
He's up there, Matt. He's up there in the history of the show with Sharaz Chek. He's seen as one of the series' ultimate badasses.
Yeah.
He's mentioned even in the recent crap, you know, and there's been this thing passed down from generation to generation.
No, you're right.
Because
The more I
none of
think
these
about it.
episodes were ever repeated. They were a one-off trick pony sort of thing, and the fact that people remember him so vividly and have passed this down from, you know, from their kids to, you know, they've just and to see him in the flesh doing all these weird things and
Little
like
bits
the
of
way
business
the
again,
way that
yeah.
he writes, you know, the way he writes.
Yeah, he held the pencil. He held the pencil like
Yeah,
this.
it's so bizarre.
And
he was like writing.
I'm thinking, now, I can believe this guy can be an alien because obviously they've been talking with other aliens because, you know, there's this whole delegation thing going on and everything, and he seems to be the ambassador for our solar system. So I can believe that he is either of a multitude of mixed races or he is of an alien species. I don't think he's of this earth, and I'm fine with that. I think that's great, and I don't care because he's such a good.
Matt, it adds to the mystique, and it adds to the believability of the office of which he's holding, and the I suppose the power that he's managed to, the power and loyalty that he's managed to command in people.
I think what is with that character, and I think the actor got this clearly when he was playing him, is in order to be seen as powerful, to be seen as wise and all these attributes, the best thing you can do is keep your voice very still, very controlled. He never shouts, he never screams, he doesn't bawl, and everything's just very like, yes, it's going exactly how I want it to. Like, that's the vibe you get.
He's
off
manipulative.
him. Yes. Yeah. And it says a lot because if you put him in a scene with the Daleks, he's just as watchable as those Daleks. And the thing also that I loved about watching this is in the 60s especially, and I think the early Doctor Who with the Daleks, Terry Nation clearly got this because they were his creation. They are conniving. Daleks should be conniving. They should be manipulative. They should be clever. They should have all those traits. They're not just there to shoot. They're not just there to sort of be like a force in that way. And here you can see all the conniving. And what's interesting is with the scenes with them and Mavic, you can see two groups thinking, how do I get what I want from you?
Because even though he's just the one guy, they need him. They need what he's got at the moment, and he probably knows that. Because I don't know this story inside out. I've sort of listened to it. I've watched the recons. There's loads of things I don't remember about this, so I can't remember how this all rolls out. And you think, okay, so who is going to get the upper hand here? Who's going to be proven to be 2 steps ahead of the other party, and how's it going to all work out?
Yeah, it's sort of that thing in plays or like if you know sort of theatre of when that idea of everybody's got a knife behind their back and they're not showing it and they're just waiting for the right moment, and that's what you get off the Daleks and
I couldn't agree more.
Mavic, and that's what's so lovely to watch.
Yeah.
That Supreme Dalek with the black dome there. Let's take some more comments here from people. We've got several agreeing with the remark earlier on about the pace of this. Stephen Braddock said it was lovely to watch all 3 episodes in a row, and the time flew by watching them. And funky notes about how different it is from previous returns. We found some episodes, you can see them within a month. Again, everything about this is different, and there's nothing that Doctor Who fans find more disturbing than things that are different. We like to think we know how the steps to the dance go, but in this instance, we have to accept that times have changed and that there are new players in this particular game, and we have to sort of to take their lead, I suppose, and whatever happens will happen in whichever time periods. We just got to sort of place our faith, keep our fingers crossed, donate if we can, invest whatever we can, with a good heart, I suppose, because we stand the best chance of getting more material back via, I suppose there are now several avenues. But this model has been proven to be successful, so who knows? It could well be adopted in various countries, because there's missing content all over the world from TV shows and movies, as I understand. Nicholas Horton's here on YouTube, dropping several comments. I watched the episodes when they dropped, all caps. So he really means that. I hope you had a good time. Hope you had a good time, Nicholas. And Bill Silver's in. Hi, team. Good to see you, Bill. And Ian Scales says, Katarina believes she's going to die and is on a journey to her death in many ways, and her facial reactions are great. Lots of big Katarina fans in the live chat. Jonathan Cox has joined us. Hello, everyone. Hello, Jonathan. Good to see you. And Nicholas also says, again, all caps, he's one happy punter, is Nicholas Horton. It was nice and clear to watch. They did a great job cleaning these episodes up again in quite a short period of time. As I was going to say,
compared to episode 2, like these look like chalk and cheese, how different they were in terms of quality. They did a fantastic job with them.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. Stephen O'Neill says William Hartnell was a consummate actor who commanded the screen from the beginning to the end of the episodes. Again, the power of this character is even when he's not on screen, you're wondering what he's doing, where he's going. Oh. We've got a greetings from Corvin, too, in the live chat. And we've got this from Stephen O'Neill. Peter Capaldi was the nearest Doctor Who come to anywhere near the Hartnell type of character. Well, Capaldi and Colin Baker, Colin in particular, tried to make a conscious effort to recapture that and hit that same balance. That's a conversation for another day, I know. But it's, I think, when Hartnell had it wasn't a luxury as such, because I know it nearly killed him, him and Patrick Troughton. But the momentum of making so many episodes a year, being on for however many weeks of the year, meant that they had time to play with that character. They knew they'd got that extended period of time. Bill Silver has great sympathies, I think, with you, Charlotte, for still seeing the Brigadier in Brett Vian. Several comments about this. By the end of Web of Fear, we were seeing a lot of the characteristics of the Brigadier we all knew so well in the Pertwee era. So you think it's sort of Nicholas Courtney's character gradually coming to life, even under another name. I think that's what Bill is pointing at.
I have to point out, too, I love the costumes in this, because you know who the military are, you know who the delegates, all the delegates are totally different. And it's just, I mean, even the way they walk is totally different. I don't know if you actually saw how they all walked out.
Really. I think it's the closest the Doctor Who, I think it's the closest, excuse me. I think it's the closest Doctor Who has got in the classic series to its Star Wars cantina scene.
Yeah.
That or a bit of Adam's Family chucked in with that bloke on the left.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's bizarre. Well, I know that the guy with the kind of the goth version of the Beatles cut there, that's a character actor who used to turn up in loads of TV shows, even well into the 80s. He'd be in, I bet he was a convict in Porridge, for example. He's that kind of actor you'd see all over the place. As for the other two guys, I don't know. I think I'd struggle to recognise them in their everyday life. But I suspect this is probably... I mean, look at that. He looks like he's covered in Oreos, doesn't he?
Yes. Or he's like he's sitting in the middle of a meringue pie or something.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. The guy down the bottom always reminds me of the Thing from Fantastic Four. the rock, the rock guy.
Now, I'm really hoping that some brave soul out there, now that we actually have these 2 episodes back, tries to cosplay that one delegate who was on the right with the cookies up to his ear. Yeah, that guy. I want to see like a full-on cosplay of that at a convention.
Swirly Sound has joined us on YouTube and says, I'm grateful to be able to see these episodes and also other things.
Who? We don't know who that is.
We don't mention anything.
5 minutes. And also that they have erased the memory of Shooty's era from my mind.
Ooh.
William Hartnell is the Doctor in 2026. Okay, no more I won't be reading out any more comments like that. We know that we've heard it all before, but I do know of course I know where you're coming from. But
isn't it weird though? It
leave it alone for 5 minutes.
kind of wash away the dirt. You know, I found when I was watching these episodes, I never even thought of any future incarnation of the Doctor.
I didn't think of anybody past Patrick Troughton.
Right.
But
I didn't even think of Patrick Troughton.
And that's largely and the only reason I really thought of Troughton was obviously because I'm aware I'm watching missing episodes, formerly missing episodes, and there's a lot of Troughtons left. But it was largely because of the Daleks, because of what Charlotte identified earlier on, and that distinction, Luke. But the Daleks just got more conniving. Their plans got more. I think they got larger at first, but in the Troughton era, they kind of get more involved, more tactical, cleverer, and they were willing to play sort of longer games, I suppose. And so it was seeing that in the Daleks that made me think of Troughton. But no, I didn't think of anything past the black and white era. And quite frankly, what hit me more so, not just a reflection of the Shooty Gatwa era or anything that's happened with Doctor Who that we don't like, or the stuff that we do like, come to think of it. But I think what hit me was the purity of television back then, and the desire to roundly entertain. Everything was there economically that you'd want for a good time. 25 minutes, Saturday tea time. You can see why this show was considered dynamite. Luke Farsight says, I watched it with my dad on Friday morning. He saw it all those years ago. And do you think that, Luke, in 30, 40 years' time, you know, you and all your other revelers there that were there watching all of that, kebab in hand, do you think you'll look back and think, oh, remember when those episodes came back and we all dived round? And do you think it's the kind of stuff that people will be talking about in decades to come?
I don't know. I'd probably be dead by then. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, hopefully. Yeah, it's such a weird one. I thought the pacing. I know we've spoken about it, but the pacing of it was spot on. I think probably this is maybe the format Doctor Who should go back to, because it seemed very suited and it seemed fresh. Yeah. And we're watching something from the 60s and are like, oh wow, this is at such a breakneck pace, and everything just flowed so nicely. The writing was bob on, the acting was great. It was very theatre at times. I don't know because they were, but I was like, yeah, this is, I don't know. It just reminds you of what TV should be and what it can be.
It blows my mind, right, that this was. I don't take this analogy wrong, but it was throwaway television to these to the BBC. It was a one and done. It was just to be shown, and that was it. And the fact is that if this had been lost forever, it was so close to being lost forever, and in some parts it has been. But the fact that we've found it again, and why it was never ever shown after this is crazy to me. Yeah. Here, like I said, here in Australia, we were showing things everything was on repeat over and over and over again. So everything in the BBC back then was just content, one and done. That was it. So I am so happy that I've gotten to see these, and so many other people who first saw this have memories of it, little snippets. I have little snippets of certain episodes I've never seen again, and to see it to show it again, it's just amazing to me.
I think the people who are, again, I don't want to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but I think that the people who are making it put their heart and soul into it, and obviously they wanted to get better at their craft, Luke, whatever it was that they did, so they could get another job, so they could have form a career path. It was probably that simple. But I think they put their best efforts into it. But I would imagine that people in management probably did consider it to be most television to be ephemera because of its populist nature, and they didn't really know where it was going. And the idea that there'd be special screenings of this stuff, whether it was stuff that's being returned or just things that people venerated, it would never have crossed their minds. And I think it's because they're people of a bygone age who just looked at it differently. Of course, now we know all of that was a load of old, don't we? We know only too well. I believe Nicholas Courtney came to Camfield's attention by auditioning for Richard I in The Crusade, says Corvin. Now, that's something I either never knew or forgotten that I knew, Charlotte. But being a Doctor Who fan is very much like that, going backwards and forwards. Yeah. There's only so much you can store in the average grey hard drive between the ears.
Yeah, and just to add to what Luke was saying, I think with the pacing, it's what's so good in these episodes is they seem to know the perfect time for a character to have a lifespan in this story. Because, like, you think about it, it opens up, you've got Brett, you've got the Doctor, you've got Katarina, you've got Stephen. And then you sort of have the run with Brett, and then you have Sarah Kingdom. And it's such a hard thing to know when a character has sort of outstayed its welcome a little bit. Was not your main characters, with your sort of secondary characters and your more tertiary characters. And the fact that they were so good at just sort of knowing, here's my character, here's what they need to hit, here's sort of the points they need to get to, acted brilliantly by everybody. I think that's also, you can't deny that. And that just, I think that helps, because just when you think, this thread is finishing, you get another thread. And that's sort of the thing of these big, long episodes. They didn't always get this right in Classic, but when they got it right and they knew exactly how to do it.
I didn't want this to end. And I remember as we were getting to the end of episode 3 of Devil's Planet, and you're aware that the counter is going up, or the little bar is getting further along, on iPlayer or whatever, or on a YouTube video. We know we're very conscious of we're getting to the end. And of course, when you've watched enough classic Doctor Who, you can sort of feel the rhythm of it, I think, Gary. And so as we're getting closer to the end, I thought, I'm getting to that inevitable point now where I'm going to have to stop watching this. I can't watch any further. But I think the trick is to sort of take it for what it is. And we knew some of what happens directly following this, and various characters that would come later. But I think that what I'm choosing to take from this, as well as my gratitude and admiration, respect for the volunteers at Film is Fabulous, what I'm taking from this is that I have been furnished with a complete story of sorts, enough that I can go back to this on its own terms, on its own merits, in a way that you can't so readily with orphaned episodes. Mm-hmm. And if we never, it's quite likely the odds were against these two ever showing up again. So I suppose you could say that as with the passage of time, the odds of seeing further episodes return from this particular story are going to be increasingly slim. And it's living with that. I think, okay, the glass is almost half full. I can top up the rest myself. This was a fabulous evening's worth of entertainment. And that did reconnect me with something fundamental in Doctor Who, which I would latch onto when did I first see it? When I was 4 or 5 years old. That's carried me through my entire life. And so that's what I'm cherishing the most, as well as the fact that this series can keep on giving me reasons to go back to it, to do some more reading, to do some more searching, and not least of all, to find out more about Adrian Hill. There aren't many pictures and quotes. There's a single interview by Patrick Mulcairn, I believe, who usually writes for the Radio Times, but he interviewed her for Doctor Who magazine in the mid-'80s. So that's out there. Of course, she passed away at the age of, I think she was 61 in 1997. She attended very few Doctor Who events. So there's not that much to read in some respects. But she was in later life a drama teacher and would still turn up in various TV shows playing parts of varying significance, so characters with 1 or 2 lines or characters with no lines at all. but she continued working and was an educator, a respected educator. And as I understand it, members of her family were there at a screening over the weekend at Riverside Studios. So again,
oh, that's great.
I've taken the time to go and find out more about Adrian Hill based on this, and I suspect that lots of other people will. That's just one of the things, one of the gifts of these two returns.
I have to confess that when I got done, when the third episode was over, I really had a lot of kind of conflicting emotions. At first, I mean, obviously, you know, my deepest heartfelt gratitude to all the wonderful people at Film is Fabulous for giving us this.
Yeah.
When I was watching it, I was absolutely just enthralled. I mean, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen, from everything from, you know, the atmosphere to Hartnell's performance to just everything. I was absolutely just enraptured. And when it was over, I confess that I felt kind of angered and absolutely crushed that so much of this amazing material is gone, you know, into the mist of time. I was just angry. It's like not a single episode of this should ever have been lost. And to realize that, you know, we get like a little occasional taste, like we did 13 years ago, and like we did this. And, you know, we can be grateful that we have it back, but then, you know, for myself, just really, mad that so much has been lost. But on the whole, it's a wonderful Easter gift that we were all given. Dan, as you said, you know, we can appreciate that we got a couple of more chapters, you know, in the saga, you know, to enjoy.
I think we have to. What are your closing thoughts on this, Charlotte?
I think after I watched them, I was sort of quite emotional, and I think my emotion was seeing more of Bill. I think that's what hit me, because especially his season 3 stuff, because of all the stuff we now know that was going on behind the scenes, because of his struggles, because of how he had all the health stuff, but he wanted to carry on playing this part. He loved this part. And I think just to see him again, and that's sort of what was my connection, and to sort of get more of the puzzle back for his Doctor. Because like you said, I feel like for a while, both him and Pat was sort of seen as, oh, we're missing so much of their Doctors, or like you said, that sort of fan wisdom idea was a little bit down on the first couple of Doctors. But when you see what he was doing, when you see how much he put into this role, and how much he sort of got it and evolved it and all the stuff we talked about, I had that sort of, not anger, but the emotion of a little bit of sadness, because we've still lost so much.
Right, yeah.
And it's just, but then while I was watching it, I was absolutely enthralled and enjoying it. But like you said, it's that sort of afterthought that you can't help but have. And then my other thought was, the first thing I did actually after watching the episodes is I looked up the story for the Mythmakers. Because I was like, what's the one before this? And then that emotion carried on to reading what the Mythmakers was, and just thinking, oh, imagine if we got any of that back.
Yeah.
Even if it was just some episodes of that, just sort of read the descriptions of the sets, of how it sounded like such a lavish and beautiful production. And I love my sort of Greek stuff, so just to see that, so it was sort of this weird emotional feeling afterwards, and I think that's never going to go away. Like sort of Gary said, we'll want as much as we can, and I do think Film is Fabulous is sort of our hope right now, and I think it's a real chance, and it's a real thing of we're probably the closest we're ever going to be for a while to get these episodes back, because Film is Fabulous has clearly got very good connections. They're very skilled. They've got the knowledge. So it was, it was a mixture of emotions, if I'm going to be honest, after watching it.
Yeah.
And I think we're all going to be a bit like that with these now, if we get any more discoveries or anything coming back. But yeah, sort of, because I do have to go in a minute. My big thing was, God, I love Hartnell, and I'm just so happy that we got anything of Hartnell back. Sort of, that was sort of my resounding sort of, we've got the first Doctor back in some way, and let's hope we get some more. But I do have to go. It's been lovely to talk and to sort of examine and throw thoughts around. So I will see you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Charlotte. How about you, Luke? Because it's been, we've joked about various things over the last few weeks. It's the way that we do things here. We sort of ease the days and weeks along with a few smiles and some cheap jokes. But the truth of the matter is that it's been intense over the last 3 weeks. We covered it when Film is Fabulous first started to speak about Doctor Who, sort of October, November time, something like that. And then, it's easy to get carried away and to get overexcited. And then 3 weeks ago, we find out we've got reason to be excited. And so, are you coming down from that yet? Or is this a high that you think is going to last for a while? What are your final thoughts on this for the time being?
I'm just sitting in it for as long as I can. I just enjoying it. I mean, the world is in such a horrible state right now that it's nice to have something to be cheerful and happy about. And even if it is just a couple of lost episodes, like there's only 40 minutes of content. 40 minutes of television from 60 years ago, and it's amazing how much that means to so many people, not just in the UK but around the world, and how much joy it's bringing to people. And you saw, at the Riverside screening, you saw Nick Briggs getting emotional, and you can see what it means to Peter Purvis. And it's a little bit of light in the darkness right now, and it's like, I want to enjoy it. I want to come on stream. I want to talk about, we had a viewing party, we had this, everyone's reaction to it. And how often do you have that these days? If this is the last missing episodes they ever find, then it's been such a great experience. It'd be really awkward if for the next 5 years all they just find is episodes of Dalek Master Plan, and they have to keep doing the Riverside screenings every year. Just keep dragging Peter Purvis out, and at the end they'll just be so fed up of doing screenings of it.
They'll have to move in.
They'd
have to build him an annex, wouldn't they, at Riverside?
Yeah, exactly. And Ian, it's an Oodie, it's not a onesie. Get it right, please. But it's just.
This picture is doing my heart in. Dan,
yeah, I think I don't want to shoot down Luke, because everything Luke was just saying was so optimistic. I don't want to shoot it down with more of that. I'd much rather talk about this, about how brilliant Film is Fabulous is, and how you can donate, that you can get involved and sample all the various content, lots of different essays and articles over on their website, as well as those all important links where how you can get involved and donate. You get, the further screenings are planned, as I understand, not just the Doctor Who. There's films that have been preserved. There's other television. Go over to the website, check it all out, particularly if you are somebody who's not just into Doctor Who and not just into the sci-fi and fantasy genre. You'll find a lot to stoke that interest, I think. So get over there. The link is in the video description. And also there's new content up on their YouTube channel too. So they're bringing the various panels, interviews, conversations from that event at the weekend at the Riverside. They're going to be turning up on the Film is Fabulous YouTube channel in one form or another. And as I understand it, there's further content that's planned too, surrounding the whole process of the restoration, the preservation in the first place. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, that costs absolutely nothing. Get over there and do that. Hit the subscribe button and dive in. Find out more about their work and how you can help. Shout out to Tim Burrows at the Missing Episodes podcast. He was in the chat earlier on. He may have retired because I know he's had a manic month. So if you've made it through, Tim, or if you've long since turned in, congratulations again to you, and very well done, Matt. This has been quite the event.
It has.
You know, you took some time away from talking about Doctor Who for a while for various reasons, and you've explained how it's made you feel. But have you got any passing thoughts on this? You know, we've experienced this event all together from all over the world. I mean, is it a case of sort of, I liked it, I'm really greedy, I'd like it again, please? Or what are you taking from it? What are your closing thoughts?
I think for the real classic black and white era, I enjoy the science fiction element more, like the future, in space sort of things and the historicals. I'm not a fan of the historicals with...
Matt, it may be a heresy for some, but to me, one tunic is much the same as another.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they wear futuristic tunics in these ones, but I've come away with a few things that it's wonderful to see the Daleks in their element again. Conniving, malicious, manipulative, whispering. They don't shout every single word. They have a conversation. They ask questions to each other. They're like, are we doing this? And then they just turn around and they just exterminate. And it's wonderful to see that again. And like I said, this is my Doctor Who. This is what I've always wanted out of Doctor Who, always. And I actually really, can I also say I really appreciate Peter Purvis's character of Stephen more now too. Seeing him more on screen has helped because I understand his motives now as well, because there's still a lot of stuff of his still missing as well. I think even his introduction is missing as well. So, it's there.
No, it's there. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll have to go back and watch more.
His final episode is missing.
Yeah,
Savages is missing.
Okay, right. Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of. But I will watch more adventures with Stephen in them because I actually really did enjoy his character, and I see where he's coming from now. And I was really interested to know how he got his blood poisoning. And the other thing that I really thought about was, if they're traveling on a ship, on a spaceship, and the TARDIS is still on that planet, how are they going to get back to the TARDIS?
Yeah, I wondered that as well.
And so that really got me going because they were positive thoughts on it. It wasn't like it was like, that's a bad, that doesn't make any sense. That's a really thing. That was a real positive story to me. Is element in that it's like, well, what's going to happen with this and what's going to happen with that? Because they're going to wrap it up. That's the thing.
What's going to happen? You've got the Daleks going against Mavic Chen. You've got the Doctor in the mix as well. I think even if you've consumed these stories via whatever means, you want to go back and find out what happens next. You want to experience the traitors as best you can. There are options, of course. Let us know which is the one that you go for. So thanks for coming back, Matt. It's been good to catch up with you.
No worries.
And to get your thoughts on that. Your enthusiasm was more than evident. I mean, with me, I've loved
it.
I mean, with me, with Stephen Taylor as played by Peter Purvis, I've always liked the character. But, and you're quite right, a lot of his material does exist and has existed for a long time. But there was something else in this that I don't think I'd seen in him before. I think with with Vicky gone, his relationship with the Doctor in particular sort of exposed for what it is without that kind of, I would say third wheel, because I really like Vicky, but bringing them, it's kind of like when you see the Fifth Doctor and Turlough together. Oh, that's different. It's not there for very long, but it's different, and it is a thing. It is there, and later on in their relationship. So that's fascinating too.
That's one of the, you realize watching these 3 episodes now, complete back to back, you realize that's one of the tragedy, because one of the tragedies is that Stephen actually didn't get to say goodbye to Vicky. She left while he was, in that state, and he's still asking where she is, when he wakes up in the TARDIS. And so that's sad. And the one scene in the 3rd episode where Brett's piloting the ship, and Stephen is like underneath working on it, trying to get it to work. I go, well, that's kind of odd. But then I thought, no, Stephen Taylor was a space pilot. That's how he was introduced. That's what he used to do before he joined the Doctor. He was a space pilot. So of course he would know how to fix a ship and pilot it all and stuff. So yeah, no, they had a lot of, that character was really consistent.
So that is what we thought, what we did to mark the occasion. What about you? How many times have you watched these 2 new old episodes? Both of the returned episodes of the Dalek Master Plan are there on the BBC iPlayer in the UK. As I understand it, they're going to be there for a little while at least. They're also on the official classic Doctor Who YouTube channel for those in North America or with a VPN. Let us know what you go for, whether you watched it one a night or one a day, or whether you staged your own watch party. How did these episodes live up to your expectations after a manic 3 weeks in the Doctor Who universe? Let us know.
This is Lord President Rassilon. Due to the interference of that idiot renegade, the Doctor, the universe is collapsing. Unfortunately, the Time Lords have no answer for this, and I am forced to call upon the services of Type 40 Podcast.
Playtime's over. For now. Oh. It feels good. You feel the waves of positivity, can't you? I do. I feel like I'm 6 or 7 years old again, everybody. And that is thanks to William Hartnell, Peter Purvis, Adrian Hill, Kevin Stoney, Nicholas Courtney, various Dalek operators, and primarily the film is fabulous. Again, links are in the description there. And we want to know what you thought. The entire experience. Let us know. Instagram, X at Type 40 Doctor Who, as always, or you can slip over to the Type 40 Facebook group where the conversation is rolling on. Lots of shares of our experiences, various takes on the various gifts, I suppose, that are in those 2 returned episodes, and the fact that we can watch those first 3 now in sequence. What has it changed about that story for you? Send us any feedback of any kind through SpeakPipe as well. Suggestions, predictions. Doctor Who fans love predictions. There's lots of people in the live chat, I know, speculating about possible further returns that may or may not happen. In Doctor Who fandom, I think a lot of us like to pass ourselves off as sort of Nostradamus of some kind. And it's all well and good. It's all part of the fun. It's all part of the fun, maybe. I think the safest thing to do is simply to sit back and watch and enjoy. Back to the future, the present, the future, their future, our present, for further editions of this show. Lots of stuff to talk about, to catch up on, I'm sure, as the story continues. Gary, you and I have spoken about this so many times over the last few weeks, over the last few months, come to think of it, as the film is fabulous method, model of potentially returning Doctor Who classics to us as that sort of started to take shape. I mean, now we've actually had something back. How's it left you feeling? Do you feel like you placed faith and it's been rewarded, or have you got a more kind of grounded way of looking at it to that? What are your final thoughts?
I always have hope that we will get to see more missing episodes in our lifetime. I think, though, that since it was, I'm talking before we found out about these two.
Yeah.
Even with all of the, everything about Film is Fabulous, sounded great. The podcast they did as they explained their methodology and their motives and their priorities, it all sounded great. And, you could still have hope in that. But it had been, 13 years since the last, missing episode recovery. So I think it was natural that it was always a guarded hope, because it's like, well, you don't want to, anything's possible, but you just never know after all this time, because every year that went on, the likelihood of finding these episodes in a decent condition was less and less and less and less. But I think the greatest thing that, besides finding the episodes, that they did in this is that they kept totally stum about any details about what they found until they were ready to be shown. Because, and I think I said this to you, Dan, I don't want to know like 9 months in advance of us seeing it that they found something. So this was the perfect way to do it. Don't say what you found. Let them be restored to a broadcastable condition. Let them be remastered and then reveal it. It's like, we not only have it, but you'll be able to see it in a matter of weeks. That is the perfect way to do it, because if it had been a year between us knowing about these two episodes and us seeing them, there would have been, that would not have been, good as far as the fandom goes. So the way they rolled this out was absolutely perfect.
I would imagine it'll be refined through various recoveries over the months, over the years, because Film is Fabulous is still quite a young charity. And the relationships that they're cultivating with film collectors, I suppose the reputation will grow. Okay, they handled this really well and that really well. And so I'm expecting it will be refined over time. And should there be further Doctor Who discoveries, maybe it'll be the same, but it could be different. I suppose we'll find out, won't we? All in due course. You can be sure we'll be all over it here at Type 40 Live, Matt, just as we are with every breaking news story, every point. Find our previous show covering all of this topic, the missing episodes. There's been lots. Various writers come on, various Doctor Who pundits have come and spoken to us about this particular topic, including the likes of Richard Molesworth and Tim Burrows, two experts in this field. So you'll find all of that in the playlists, as well as the rolling news coverage stuff for you to catch up on, Matt, since we last spoke to you. But it's been great to have you back, mate. And you're buzzing with as much enthusiasm as the rest of us.
I've really loved this, and can I just say thank you so much to Film is Fabulous for finding these episodes. And can I just say to the BBC, Doctor Who belongs to everybody. You need to share it with everybody. Okay?
Couldn't agree more. It's the nature of Doctor Who from its earliest days was of inclusivity, proper inclusivity and entertainment. And I think that's very clear when you watch these episodes. Again, I used the expression high adventure earlier on, and it may have been small budget, but I think it always had kind of high ambitions as well, Gary. Like, people will catch up, people will buy into it, I suppose. But again, placing faith in your talent, in your craftspeople, and it absolutely pays off. It shines out of these episodes. I just had such a brilliant time with this. And for now, just as Matt said, for me, it stops at William Hartnell. William Hartnell is the Doctor. This is the TARDIS. Never mind all the various high-tech versions that would come along later. In many respects, this is all you need. And yeah, we started this edition of the show with a very minimal set. And I think that also speaks of a time as well, and of a virtue that perhaps it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if we went back to it. And just as Luke said, the format as well, that certainly goes for the format as well. We're not done with the subject of the missing episodes. Of course, we're not. There's 95 that are still yet to be recovered. So the story continues and the mission goes on. Maybe one day we will get to do all of this again. But for now, this has been so much fun. Congratulations and admirations to Film is Fabulous, always. And it's been great to have your company to go over some of it this time after a really heady few weeks. I think that wraps it up. For another one, we can sail off in this. I don't think they'll notice if we head out there somewhere. For now, we might bump into the Artemis too. That's the only problem, though, Gary.
I don't know. I don't think the Artemis 2 stands a chance against Mavic Chen's ship.
You could be right. I've often wondered about this, how it sort of flies, because the model shot we'd had before, it just sort of drops down. I wonder, does it just...
When they said, "Oh, can I just say, when they call it the spa," I was half expecting a bathtub, and Mavic Chen sitting in the bathtub in his spa. You know, I was like,
we're back to Eric Roberts and the walk-in bath we had on a few weeks ago, aren't we? that is that. Yeah, Easter may be done, but the story of the missing episodes absolutely isn't. We're far from done here at Type 40. Join us next time. No party lines, no beefs, and no bullshit. Just more rant and raves where all opinions are welcome. Luke's getting ready for bed there. He's doing his
I am, yeah. I was holding in a yawn so bad then. If you zoom in, it was just my lip quivering. Oh. Yeah, I thought the model shots in this were fantastic as well, by the way.
It's enchanting. Yeah. I've always wondered how the spaceship flew. I'd wondered, did it sort of turn onto its side, and was the circular part, was that a kind of a nose cone of sorts, but actually just sort of spins and rolls off into a nebula or two. It's delightful.
Yeah,
I could bang on about this for another hour. I'm not going to.
I was going to say, and even on the Dalek ship as well, when they're traveling through, you can see on the little screen on the side, it looks like the split screen from the opening titles. So it looks like the vortex, and it's like, oh, that's a cool little.
I have to think because of the reception to these two episodes that we're going to get like a Mavic Chen spa ship, like from somebody at some point.
Character options. We need a Mavic Chen action figure, please.
Yeah, with the don't forget the cookie guy. I'm going to calling him the cookie guy. We need a figure of that.
The seaweed man. Let's get them all in.
Cookie guy and seaweed man and Fang face.
That's the next spin-off.
I said that playtime is over. Sounds like it isn't. Thank you, everybody, for the comments. We'll be back in a few days with more Type 40 Live, where we always have the time. If you have the space, take care. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.